tonight. Allegations against a Regina youth organization after a teenager dies by suicide while staying at its shelter. How the challenge of interprovincial trade especially impacts one Saskatchewan border town. And why one Regina group wants more accessible places for kids to play.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, March 26th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. The Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations wants answers relating to the death of a teenage girl. She died by suicide 2 years ago, and the FSIN says the organization that was supposed to be looking after her failed to do its job. Liam O'Connor has more.
In 2023, the 17-year-old was under the care of the Street Culture Project while staying at its Tuhk Nowin youth shelter. The FSIN says the teen told staff of the SCP about her suicidal thoughts in the days before her death. But it says her calls for help went unanswered.
And they bring her back in a box. And they give us no answers. We didn't know nothing. And it still affects us to this day.
The Street Culture Project is supposed to empower young and vulnerable people in the community. In 2020, it faced allegations of sexual harassment and abuse. Now the FSIN is bringing forward more complaints from former staff who say the Street Culture Project is dysfunctional and harming the lives of the high-risk youth.
All of the ladies that are behind standing here have all been terminated or on the verge of being terminated for speaking their mind.
The FSIN is demanding the SCP board and its CEO resign immediately.
If you don't, the family, the former staff have all given their approval for us to seek legal action.
The SCP CEO confirms the teenage girl was under its care while at the shelter. When asked if he was aware of the girl's immediate need for counseling and calls for help, he said he was not able to disclose personal health information. He did say the SCP keeps good records of the needs of youth. He also says Cameron's call for him to resign carries weight.
I would appreciate a chance to sit down and talk to Chief Cameron about these matters and proceed, in the best way that we can together.
The Ministry of Social Services confirms it is following up with the Street Culture Project regarding the employee allegations. It would not confirm if the teen's death is also being investigated. But the official did say the ministry conducts internal reviews when there's an incident involving a youth. Liam O'Connor, CBC News, Regina.
An organization in Saskatoon that helps people with drug addiction says the province is downplaying the number of overdose deaths this year. Prairie Harm Reduction says the government is also not doing enough to deal with the city's toxic drug overdoses. The province says there have been 9 suspected overdose deaths in Saskatoon in March alone, but Prairie Harm says only referring to this month is misleading. It claims there have been 58 suspected overdose deaths in Saskatoon so far this year.
That's a pretty big difference between 9 that were reported in that press conference yesterday to know that there is actually 58 individuals that have passed away since January, which means, we have communities grieving, we have families grieving that are going unnoticed.
It's not clear where Prairie Harm is getting its numbers from, but according to coroner's reports, there have been 58 suspected overdose deaths province-wide this year, not specifically in Saskatoon. CBC is waiting to hear back from the Ministry of Justice about where those overdoses took place. Winnipeg police have identified the 4th victim of serial killer Jeremy Skibitsky. They believe she was Ashley Shingoose, who was 30 when she went missing 3 years ago. Police believe her remains are in a local landfill. They expressed regret when making the announcement Wednesday.
We have had time for reflection, almost nearly 3 years. While we cannot undo the past, we can learn from it.
Shingoose's identity was confirmed when evidence gathered during the investigation was sent for DNA analysis. The results came back Monday. Police are now preparing to search for her remains. Skibitsky was convicted last year of 4 counts of first-degree murder. And support is available for anyone affected by these reports and the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous people. Immediate emotional assistance and crisis support is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the national hotline at 1-844-413-6649. A Saskatoon woman says the long-term care system in this province needs to be overhauled after her elderly father died 2 weeks after moving into a facility. Erwin Lucan's family brought their anger to the provincial legislature Wednesday. Lucan died in 2023 after living in Northern Lights Care Home in Saskatoon for just 13 days. The 91-year-old had a catheter, but his family says staff were unaware of his condition. They say no one helped maintain it for more than 10 days, and they want answers.
I have it all documented in a deep file as to who I talked to, what date, what we talked about, and what phone number and everything. So we counted over 14 names that I've spoken to. We talked to everybody about 14 or more. And we finally are here today, since October 2023.
Donna Fiddler and Colleen Lucan tell CBC they didn't find out until after their father's death that Northern Lights Care Home had gone nearly 4 years without a government inspection. The minister in charge of long-term care says the details provided by the family are disturbing.
We want all of our seniors to have the best care they can get when they move on to a nursing home. And so, yeah, that does concern me.
Carr says facilities are supposed to be inspected annually or, if they're in good standing, every 2 years. She says the Northern Lights facility had been inspected more recently than shown in the government's own records. The minister says she needs more information before deciding what steps to take. People who vape will soon pay more in Saskatchewan. The products used to be exempt from PST, but last week's budget changed that. The government announced vapes will now be taxed to align with other provinces.
We've heard directly from folks, the Heart and Stroke Foundation, other important stakeholders in the province, and obviously, everyone makes choices about what they choose to consume or not consume. But certainly alignment across Western Canada is important.
Starting June 1st, a 6% provincial sales tax will be applied to all vapor products in Saskatchewan. The government expects this new tax will bring in about $3 million annually. It's also hoped the new higher price will discourage people from using vapes, especially youth. While there have been steps taken toward clearing interprovincial trade barriers, some businesses are struggling right now. Julia Wong takes us to one community on the Saskatchewan-Alberta border where even selling to your neighbor can be a challenge.
Work can sometimes be a grind at this Saskatchewan meat processor. The reason? An invisible line.
We're eligible to sell in Saskatchewan anytime, any place. Alberta, we would have to become a federal facility.
That's because Robert Lundquist's business is on the edge of Lloydminster, which sits in both Saskatchewan and Alberta. He's in Saskatchewan, but he can't sell across the border without federal certification, which he says would cost millions. A tough pill to swallow when he can see Alberta. Tell us, where is the border from here?
Well, if you turn around and look right there, you can see the traffic lights. That's the border.
He wants interprovincial trade barriers to come down.
Rather than stamping our feet and saying, no, we can't change, maybe it is a time that we should be thinking about change.
These bright red posts mark the border between the two provinces. So right now I'm in Saskatchewan, and now I'm in Alberta. This Saskatchewan-based berry farmer can sell in Alberta, but only because she had the resources to get her kitchen federally approved.
It's a lot of red tape you have to read to figure out what you exactly need to do. And some people may find it a bit time-consuming and a bit confusing.
Federal changes in November now allow food from either province to flow freely within city limits. Proof it is possible to remove trade barriers, says this business owner.
It does show that when the right people get to the table, we can create a common sense approach.
As for Lundquist, he sees his call to tear those down as part of his civic duty.
I want to make my business better. I want to grow it and make better. It makes my community better. It makes my country better.
Which could help Canadian businesses grow. without relying on other countries. Julia Wong, CBC News, Lloydminster on the border of Saskatchewan and Alberta.
Well, if you live in Saskatoon, you'll know traffic frequently gets backed up here at 22nd Street and Confed Drive, right in front of Circle Drive. That's compounded by people trying to get onto Circle or Confederation Drive from Fairmont Drive, which is very close nearby. Well, Saskatoon City Council has now approved the design of a new lane for people turning onto 22nd from Fairmont, so they can more easily get to Circle or Confederation without jamming up traffic. Council has also approved a designated left turn lane from 22nd onto Confed, and another feature being added is a shared pedestrian and bike path. It'll cost about $3 million, but construction won't start until a design is complete and funding is available. Stay with us. We'll have more news and a look at our forecast after the break. At a campaign stop in southern Ontario Wednesday, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre took aim at Mark Carney, accusing the Liberal leader of hiding his assets in tax havens.
He thinks that taxes are just for the little people, not for big shot bankers like him. This is exactly the wrong kind of experience we need in a prime minister, and the worst kinds of conflicts of interest.
Poilievre has mentioned Brookfield several times on the campaign trail. Carney was an executive at the asset management company. 2 funds that he co-chaired were registered in Bermuda, but it's not clear whether those funds included any of Carney's personal assets. Carney has called Poilievre a, quote, conspiracy theorist. He says the funds were registered in Bermuda to avoid double taxation. And the Liberal leader kicked off day 4 of campaigning in Canada's auto sector heartland to unveil a $2 billion proposal to protect the industry.
Today, I'm announcing that the new Liberal government will create the Strategic Response Fund. And this is a $2 billion fund that will protect the jobs of workers affected by President Trump's tariffs. But it'll do much more than that. It will fortify the entire Canadian auto supply chain.
Carney says the money would be used to boost the auto sector's competitiveness and help workers gain additional expertise in the industry. Speaking in front of the Ambassador Bridge connecting Canada to the U.S., he also promised to build an all-in-Canada manufacturing network to reduce how often car parts cross the border. The announcement comes as Donald Trump has announced a 25% tariff on cars and parts imported from Canada. And NDP leader Jagmeet Singh has outlined his plan for taxes if the party forms government. Speaking in Hamilton, he promised to eliminate the GST on some essential items if elected, and said he would cut the basic personal exemption on income tax for low and middle income earners.
Our plan helps middle-class folks the most, and the difference is that we've noticed from the other plans that are out there, the Liberals and Conservatives, their plan is one that helps millionaires the most.
Singh said the exemption would help Canadians more than tax cuts promised by Liberal leader Mark Carney and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. The NDP is now a distant third in the polls and faces an uphill battle. Recent numbers show some of the lowest levels of support for the party in years. A live look at Saskatoon, where the clouds have started building in, and boy, we are in for some very interesting winter-like weather over the next couple of days for Saskatoon and for a large portion of south and central Saskatchewan. Let's take a look now at our watch warning map, and you can see where the significant or the special weather statement rather that we had in place on Tuesday has now been upgraded to a snowfall warning to include Saskatoon, the Battlefords, through the Wynyard area, over to Yorkton and Melville, even as far south as Moosomin. Keep in mind, Regina, it looks like we're in the warning, but we're actually not. It only extends to areas like Southey and Fort Capel and Indian Head, but does not include the Regina area. 10 to 20 centimeters of snow is what we are looking at, and some freezing rain as well. You can already see pockets of that starting to develop in portions of southwestern and west central Saskatchewan. things are looking to play out like this. This model's kind of a lower resolution model, but I think it gives the best detail of sort of what's going to happen, or the best guess as to where the snow and the rain are going to be. So starting early Thursday morning, just in time for the commute, snow beginning to move in to western areas, including Saskatoon. There's that sort of rain-snow line that Regina is on. So we might get some wet snow. We might get freezing rain into Thursday morning, but the heaviest snow starts building into the snowfall warning area through Thursday afternoon, and even for the Yorkton area continuing through Thursday evening. Then this system sort of wraps around and we get another area of snowfall moving through southern Saskatchewan, albeit less significant than our central Saskatchewan counterparts as we get into Friday afternoon. That moves out and we're left with mostly cloudy skies as we head into Saturday. So again, a general 10 to 20 centimeters. Saskatoon, the Battlefords, Lloydminster, maybe upwards of 15 centimeters. Sort of looks toward the Yorkton area, kind of the areas around the Manitoba border there where we have some higher elevation. Could maybe see over 20 centimeters of snow in that area. And then for Regina and for the southeast, again, these numbers may be overshot a little bit, but generally 2 to 4 centimeters, I think, is what we're looking at. And then keep in mind, some of that may fall as rain as well. So a few millimeters of some freezing rain may be picked up, especially as we head into Thursday morning through the southern part of the province. Then, of course, you have to factor in the wind. That's going to start picking up as early as Thursday morning by about 6 or 7 a.m. This is going to create blowing snow conditions, but I think the strongest of the winds will be in the southeast part of the province as we get into Thursday afternoon before those taper off as we head into Friday. So Regina, I've put us at maybe 2 to 4 centimeters for Thursday, and then another skiff of snow on Friday before we have a very cool weekend before things improve next week. Saskatoon, windy with 10 to maybe 15 centimeters of snow for Thursday, and then a couple of centimeters Friday. Again, we have a chilly weekend, but things improving for the start of next week, albeit we will continue to see some cloud cover at times. Well, thousands of Hudson's Bay workers will soon be losing their jobs, and they won't be receiving any severance pay. That's especially hard for them to hear because some top staff will be getting big bonuses as the company tries to restructure. Sophia Harris reports.
Kevin Grell is one of 9,300 Hudson's Bay workers worried about losing their jobs as the retailer liquidates most of its stores. Adding to the stress, the cash-strapped company is not paying workers severance. Instead, they must file a claim with Hudson's Bay and likely get pennies on the dollar.
It's sad. It's distressing.
So Grell was almost at a loss for words when he learned from CBC News Hudson's Bay will pay 121 managers and executives up to $3 million total in retention bonuses as the company winds down and tries to restructure. What do you think about these bonus payments?
That's not good. Honestly, Sophia, if I was to answer that, I may get in trouble.
After taking a pause, he added,
"Give the workers a little something."
This employment lawyer says insolvent companies often pay retention bonuses to keep top staff as they wind down or restructure.
You need to be able to retain your top people who are going to be designing and implementing the strategy and the plan to reorganize the business.
Hudson's Bay didn't comment on the bonus payments, but did say laid-off workers can apply for federal government financial assistance. However, that will likely cover just a portion of what they're owed.
It is absolutely egregious. We absolutely would like to see additional worker protections in the event of job loss due to a large employer like Hudson's Bay shutting down operations.
Actions are being taken to protect pensions.
In 2023, the federal government passed legislation improving protections for workers' pensions in bankruptcy cases.
People do deserve to get their severance when companies go bankrupt.
Despite heated debate, the legislation was not extended to include severance pay protections.
It was incredibly disappointing and frustrating.
The president of the Canadian Labour Congress says, with what's happening at Hudson's Bay, she hopes workers' rights becomes an election issue. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, cherry blossom season is officially underway in Japan, 5 days earlier than last year's start. The city is currently experiencing warmer than usual weather, and the cherry blossoms are known for being extra sensitive to those temperature changes. They're also well known as Japan's favorite flower, deeply influencing the culture for centuries. And they are regarded as a symbol of life, death, and rebirth, and are expected to reach their peak in about 10 days. Stay with us. We'll have more news after the break. Welcome back. A motion Wednesday at Regina City Council is asking for more accessible playgrounds in Regina. There are currently 7 fully accessible playgrounds and 11 that have accessible elements. Andrew Schmidt is the director of community with First Steps Wellness Center, and he says accessibility can vary.
There are many levels of accessibility. I would say you want flat, hard surfaces, ramps that are not too steep. But the challenge is there's no really one size fits all. But there are always, I would say, better choices. You know, wider structures instead of tight or sharp turns. A wheelchair or power chair couldn't quite make a tight turn up on a playground. And then for structures, it's just they need to be solid and not, I guess, not displacing feet or wheels where they would get stuck in them, let's say. It's not just the kids that would have disabilities, but also parents. So parents might have maybe a mom has cerebral palsy and would like to go to the playground with her kids, but she's in a wheelchair or a power chair and can't actually get near the structure to either offer an encouraging word to her kids or provide comfort if they're a little scared on a steep slide or something like that. Or grandparents even that have mobility challenges that, again, can't get near the structure. So then they're forced to watch maybe 50 or 100 feet away.
Well, the clouds build in and the snow and the freezing rain begins tonight for many of us across south and central Saskatchewan, especially in western sections. We'll start to see that move in by the morning hours as our temperatures stay fairly nice overnight, around freezing to -5. For northern Saskatchewan, a little bit of that snow possible in western sections of the Churchill region, down into the -20s in the far north overnight. The snow moving through portions of the Churchill region for Thursday, but we're only expecting maybe a few centimeters being picked up. Again, the bulk of that moisture going to be falling through south and central. And again, by 7 a.m. Thursday, that is starting to move into west central areas and even southern Saskatchewan. I think, again, Regina will start to see that freezing rain or a bit of wet snow into the afternoon. And then that keeps on moving through. Portions of southern Saskatchewan, you see there, actually seeing not too bad of a day and some sunshine in the dry slot from this system, while everyone else is looking at that heavy snow. Again, 10 to 20 centimeters in the snowfall warning area in parts of south and central. And that is it for us. For more news anytime, you can always head to our website or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching.